Barclays Premier League action is back. We're so excited to have our teams playing again. So much excitement. But as is always the case, so much controversy. VAR. Not Voom. Happy birthday, Thierry. Unfortunately, the VAR was running amok and being a mess. This is One Kick from Glory. I'm joined with Matthew today.
What's up?
And we're going to talk through the weekend's games and all the controversy and absolute nonsense that happened. But to start off with, Matthew, how did you feel being back, having Barclays back again and able to enjoy the Premier League?
Well, my weekends are now full again. Nice full weekends. Back on the soccer Saturday. Started off on the Friday. Great to fill that hole again. I forgot how much I missed it, and it doesn't feel like it's been gone away for that long because it was at the back end of May. We're now pretty much like mid-August. That's quite a gap for a lot to go on, and yet it's almost as if the preseason started like a little bit earlier or something. I don't know, or there was just a lot going on during the summer to kind of keep us entertained. But to see the actual game back, it's great. It's great to be back, and as you said, we've got a lot to cover. A lot happened in a very short weekend. It's not been that way for that long, and already we got things to talk about. So it shows you how much we missed it.
No, it's definitely been a weekend of lots of talking points, lots of drama, and lots of unnecessary nonsense going on. I just want to start off with the game that kicked it all off over at Man City at Turf Moor against Burnley. In the end, Man City comfortably won that game. Nice, comfortable 3-0 victory. But for you, just watching that game, like, what was your main presiding thoughts, and what hope do you think the league has now, looking at how Man City played against Burnley?
I'm not going to lie, I was a little let down by Burnley, just a little bit. I thought they'd come out a little bit stronger with the home advantage, the champions of the Premier League as the champions of the Championship, the whole stakes of Company versus Pep and one of his disciples. I know that Burnley, as a player name-wise, aren't exactly stacked in names, but their system has brought them so much success from last year. I didn't think they were going to win. I thought they'd get something from it, but it's business as usual. It starts off, Haaland does what Haaland does best, taking off from where he left off, and it was just, there was no real threat from Burnley. I mean, they'll come. I mean, this is going to be it's not easy to open against the champions and treble winners, eventually, they're like that for a reason. But they'll come good. I think other teams near enough in the way in the table will be a lot easier to get to. I don't know who the next game is, but I'm sure it's not going to be anywhere near as hard as Man City. But it was odd to see. You know what I did pick up was odd was that the whole halftime thing. And Pep's done this before when he was having a word with Haaland, giving him instruction. He's done this before, and I remember he did this with Sterling at the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he scored 2 goals and they won 6-0. And he did it again here. Haaland, I think he already had his 2 goals at the time, and they were winning 3-0. It's one of those things where it's like, is it him being a manager who's wanting to do what he wants to do, or is it a case of making stuff for TV? I'm not mad. I'm still kind of on the fence a little bit on that one, but it doesn't matter because they still won.
Yeah.
So, but Burnley will. I'm intrigued to see what they can do against a team that's a little bit more easy to manipulate. So, yeah, I'm let down, but I'm not. It's the first game, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit.
Yeah, and Burnley don't have another game this coming game week, so it'll be the week after. They had some fixtures had to be rescheduled, so we'll see how they bounce back from this result. I mean, hopefully, Company can take some kind of encouragement from the fact that it was only 3-0, that they did pack a punch, and they did play some good football. But for the fact that I think at times the choice of shots wasn't the right one, sometimes, and one extra pass was needed, but they went for the effort. So I think there was something there, and I think Burnley could have, unfortunate not to get a goal for their efforts. But yeah, I agree with you.
And it went down to 10 men as well.
Yeah, so I think there was a lot of, that was a naive, stupid tackle as well. One of those sort of frustrated lunges at Walker and just unnecessary and not what you wanted to see. But you mentioned Haaland and the fact that he, he's got 2 goals again to start off the season. Those of you who are into fantasy football, we have a league. Did you did, well, I captained Haaland, so did Mark rather.
I didn't, because I don't have Haaland. I captained, never mind.
Who we captained, we won't. We'll spare his blushes, but you can join our league and get involved. We want to just kind of have some fun with that. But like I said, Haaland come back with a bang. Really, really interesting to see him back. He's on the cover of AFC 24 as well. So this is the year of Haaland. And I don't think he'll get the Ballon d'Or, but I think he'll be in the top 3. But for you, how impressed were you to see the Brock Lesnar of football coming back and carrying on as if summer never happened?
He's just brushed it off. And it's like he was never even away. He's opened up with a brace, and now the fact that we've lost Harry Kane to the Bundesliga, that golden boot now is looking ever more out of reach unless someone wants to do an absolute madness and give him a proper challenge towards it. But it's just, and what a privilege it is to have someone like him in the Premier League, possibly, if not definitely, the best striker in the world right now. And he's playing in our league, albeit for the empire that is Man City. But he's an incredible athlete. He's just an incredible athlete, and he's still just so damn young. His instinct, his power, his speed, and just his eye for goal, and just his confidence as well. That's what it comes down to. This is why we call him Brock Lesnar. It's his confidence and the fact that he believes that he can do whatever he can, any kind of goal. The speed, the power, the head, the foot. He's got it pretty much all in his locker. And like I said, he's still just so damn young. The worst thing is he doesn't show any signs of slowing down. Any signs, unless you're like the top defender, say like someone like a Saliba or something, that's able to pocket him. The trouble is that quality in centre backs is kind of lacking in the Premier League, so it just means no more goals are going to come by his way. So,
yeah, he is an absolute monster, and it'll be interesting to see how the season develops. Will he match his goal tally? Will he exceed it? And ultimately, will our teams be able to stop the machine that is Man City? But there is one other player in their squad that I want to highlight. Obviously, I think with Man City, there's several players that are stepping up to become the key linchpins to what they do. In the past, Ederson was one of them. I think as a goalkeeper, he's a big vulnerability and a player that you can get at. Kyle Walker was also another one in the past, but I feel like he's still got the speed, but he's not as quick as he used to be. He's not as sharp as he used to be, so there's vulnerabilities there. But one man who I really can't stand him as a player, Rodri. Absolute clutch. And I think he is now stepping into I think he's taken on the mantelpiece that Gundogan left behind, in the fact that he's now scored in successive cup finals to bring them victory. The fact that he's popping up with key goals now, because for a long time that guy could not get goals, and then he found his goal scoring boost a couple of seasons ago, and he just keeps coming up clutch with goals. I remember the goal he scored at the Emirates a few seasons ago. I've not forgotten that one, mate. Yeah. But anyway, really, really like how he's developing into. For you, do you think now that the fact that he is stepping up and becoming that clutch player for Man City, that's going to soften the blow that is the loss that they have of Kevin De Bruyne?
Well, it's a big hole to fill with someone like De Bruyne, who's marshaled that position so well for so many years. And I think that shows to kind of how Pep kind of uses his squad and how he uses his players, and how he's got a general coming up from somewhere, from as far back as say someone like, either inherits them or he creates them. So in saying for example, someone like Fernandinho inherited, but for someone like Gundogan, he probably created in that kind of role, how he had just that player to do what he wants. Rodri is now going to be very much in that spot, and I look at him the way he's look at Busquets. I couldn't stand Busquets for the longest time, and the worst thing is because he's just so damn good. This is probably going to be what it is for Rodri. I can't stand him. Look at him. I don't know how often he scores against Chelsea. He wins against Chelsea, not enough, but like I can't. The worst thing is I can't take away his utter talents. I just cannot take it away, and he's stepping up. He's more disciplined in a way. He's showing a stronger discipline, which it means to be that kind of general. So it's almost like having like a second captain. Like, who's the captain? If it's not De Bruyne, who's the captain now? Was it Ederson's the captain? Stone? Walker?
I think Walker Stones is one of their captains.
It wouldn't surprise me if he was like a vice or the vice captain, like if them two wouldn't play a game or something, which is highly likely because Walker's getting on and Stones sometimes moves positions around and isn't playing all the time. He's very good at creating like all these kind of generals. It wouldn't surprise me if you look at Pep's rap sheet of players he's managed to where they are now. The players that are managing, like your Xavis, like your companies, and like even to a latter extent, somewhere as Arteta, you could all say that they're generals in their own kind of way. So
That's true.
Arteta was more of a general for Everton, but when he came to Arsenal, he took that mentality with him. Vincent Kompany speaks for itself. When you watch him in the training room and in the dressing room with his players, you see how much influence he's had on him. And then there's Xavi as well, the general for him in Barcelona. So is it a case of I'm looking too far forward here saying that Rodri is going to be some sort of manager if it's that kind of general thing? I wouldn't put it past him, but he's developing that skill from here on in. He's stepping into a role, not just then necessarily left by, say, Gundogan, maybe even someone like Mahrez, who's improved over time when he came from Leicester.
That's a fair point.
That's what it is. They're able to have a slightly smaller squad because someone will always step in and take that role. Look at Sterling. Sterling left, didn't mean anything. If anything, you could argue they got better.
True. I still think they missed that explosive outlet though. Like as much as you got Foden and Grealish who are both more dribblers rather than explosive speed merchants. I think they need that. I know Cole Palmer's been getting a lot of minutes and looks quite interesting. It seems like he's stepping into that mantle that was vacated by Mahrez.
He did score the winning goal, the equalising goal yesterday in the UEFA Super Cup.
Yeah.
So we've now got potentially another one if they have their way.
That's interesting. And also, there's always time for them to buy players.
Still time.
We'll see. And we'll talk more about transfers in a bit. Obviously, we got to talk about injuries. We all have respectively lost a key player. Not Liverpool so far. They haven't got any major injuries at the moment, but we've all lost key players to our team. You mentioned De Bruyne briefly. He's out injured again, likely out for 3 months. Although as an Arsenal fan, I know he will be on the pitch in that match in October. I just know it. Somehow, some way, he will be fit. He will play and he will score. I just know it. Even though he's meant to be out for 3 months, he will find a way to be back in 2. Somehow, some way. But big injury, big loss. It's a shame that he broke down so quickly in that game. And it kind of makes... that, in addition to the raft of ACLs that have been happening throughout the league, obviously Arsenal's Julian Timber went down with an ACL injury into his debut. He looked really, really good for Arsenal. Had a great preseason, like our one-to-watch player, potentially our breakout star, and just such a cruel, cruel break for him to be out injured. Obviously, we've got the news breaking of Reece James, another injury.
Our captain.
The captain who can't stay fit. So, talking anyway, there's a lot,
Jinxed it.
So there's just a lot of things there. But I guess for you, Matt, are you concerned about the number of injuries that's slowly happening in football? Not just the number, but the time and the severity. Because they're all happening
where
right
it
now.
is, and where it is, they're all ACLs.
Or knees. Knees or ACL, yeah.
Our knees are it's absolute killer. It's a worry. It's a worry because obviously it's very demanding what you put on these players in their pre-seasons, leagues, cups, internationals. Champions League. Obviously, we've got international breaks coming up very soon for the preparation for the Euros for next year. That's also coming up. It's going to be a bear in mind for a lot of managers. But we also have to remember that from when we came back in Christmas from the World Cup, there's been a lot of fixtures. And if you really look at it, from the gap from when the last game from last season was played, I want to say it's the Champions League final or some kind of...
Yeah.
I think it might have been that. That was start of June. We're now at the mid-August kind of way, late mid-August. Pre-season would have started somewhere at June. For some clubs, June, maybe sometimes July. There's a lot of demand on these players because you have to remember the fact that the World Cup, for those that didn't go, they didn't go. For the ones you mentioned, though, De Bruyne, he went to the World Cup and he did pre-season and played all those games for Man City, winning 3 trophies. I'm not massively sure on Timber, but I know
He went to the World Cup with Holland.
he went. Oh, he did. He did go to the World Cup with Holland. Reece James, I'm not 100% sure because he's been out for so long, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was part of the fold.
He was injured for the World Cup.
He was injured for the World Cup. He's just severely unlucky with those injuries. But you see how 2 out of 3 of those players have had a lot on their plate in the last few months. Especially with someone like Timber getting all the way, I think they got all the way to the quarters, if I'm not mistaken.
And then obviously not smart. But even Thibaut Courtois of Madrid, goalkeeper getting an ACL.
Which is so bizarre.
Yeah.
Really bizarre. And they didn't even have the greatest of years last year with what they think. That one I can't really explain because it's a goalkeeper one. It could be just down to like lack of fitness or tiredness, fatigue. It's a worrying because, again, it's the same injury or knee or ACL. And it's happening to it's almost like pick certain players. It's like kind of pick here. Like players with like a point to prove how we've just lost out on Nkunku for God knows how long. And he's before the first game even started.
Didn't Madrid play in the Champions League final against Man City? Or were they in the semi-final?
That was the semis.
So
They played, I think, I can't remember.
so they're a long tournament, and then you had, I think there was even international friendlies end of the season.
Yeah, which would have been
Nation League stuff, and then you had the. I think some players meant to have a 6-week holiday, but some might have ended up having 3 because they want to come back in time for the preseason tours. Obviously, traveling all around the world, going to America from Europe, like the players have just not had sufficient break.
They haven't had a rest from, I want to say, even from some of those from the World Cup, because it finished on the 18th of December. They still played those Boxing Day fixtures.
Yep.
And that's only within a week gap. You know, so imagine someone like, say, for example, McAllister at Liverpool. 1 minute he's lifting up the World Cup trophy, the next he's back. What, 26th, 27th of December? That's a very short gap for a very long tournament. I think the timing of, because at least with the timing of the World Cup in the summer or a tournament in the summer, they have that gap of when they can stop at the end and then go off.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think the World Cup's got a lot to do with it, and all these lot of preseason games, increasing international tournaments, you know, Copa del Rey's, CONCACAFs, the one they play in like Asia and South in Australia.
Yeah.
They're all, the demand is, you know, plus with other nations stepping in like Saudi and Qatar, the demand's just going to increase and increase.
But you know, it all goes back to lockdown football. Football has not had it's been non-stop relentless tournaments and football since 2020.
That is true, because
it's been non-stop.
Because the Premier League itself didn't finish until July.
The French league paused.
Yeah, and
they null and avoided it. But there's just been non-stop. We've had European tournaments, you've had World Cups. There's not been a summer when players have been performing at tournaments every summer non-stop for the past 4 years.
That's true, because you had the
2018 World Cup.
2018 World Cup.
Then we had the Euros
in 2021. But then we had then we got the World Cup in 2022. The gap there, plus the Nations League. But anything else kind of in
Nations
between.
League, which has been running every summer because they have the qualifiers and they actually had the tournament.
Yeah.
So it's just been non-stop football.
Yeah, that's not including like your CONCACAFs, your Copa Americas and stuff like that.
It's not at all.
It's too much.
You know, it's too much football. And as much as the winter breaks happen in some countries, I think the reality is the fact that we had a Winter World Cup has ruined it for a lot of people. Like the players' bodies have not recovered. And my only hope is that we don't have any additional ACL injuries, because I think it might get to a point where players might have to take a step back and say, look, do we just go on strike? Because at the end of the day, obviously clubs are duty bound. And the problem for a lot of clubs, and I feel it, because Arteta mentioned this in his press conference today about his concerns of player well-being, is that as a club, what do you do? Because you have to manage your players' well-being, but you also still have to compete for these tournaments, these trophies. Yeah. So what do you do? Like, you can rotate players as much as you want, but like if you think about our teams, Enzo Fernandez is not going to get dropped majority of games because he's one of your key players. Bukayo Saka at Arsenal's not going to get dropped majority of games. Like, he played nearly all of our games last season.
And he's key to England as well.
And he was injured for like about 8 of them because he had a slight knock.
And he's probably England's best player.
Yeah, even the fact that he scored a hat-trick the last international games that we had before the season ended. I mean, I was annoyed that he even played. I'm happy for his hat-trick, but I'm annoyed that he played because he had such a long season. So something's got to give. And I personally, if I was the managers looking at this upcoming international break, the one in, I think it's in October, September time.
Soon.
Personally, I would just make my players be injured and not make them get tooled up. Alex Ferguson did it all the time and it worked. So I would do that, because right now I think someone's got to put a foot down and say, listen, I understand these internationals are important. I understand representing your country is very important. But like, in many ways, they're meaningless for like friendlies. Unless it's a qualifier for a tournament, the friendlies are of no benefit. Really. Yeah. Yes, you want to see cohesion. Yes, you want to try out new players. But most countries and most national teams do not try out new players. No. They play the same players like we always see. With England, that's a big criticism.
Big problem still is.
I think for some teams, just pull a sickie and protect yourself.
Allow them to have that break.
Because they're going to need it. Because, you know, it's going to be a crazy, crazy, crazy. There's so much football to go. And, you know, we need to protect our players. Speaking of players, we had the Caicedo derby, as we refer to it now, at the weekend, Chelsea versus Liverpool. I mean, how did you feel about that game? Because I know going into it, you were quite concerned. Had a lot of doubts as to how the match would go. Ended up being a draw, which is a very controversial draw, and we'll talk about that more. But how did you feel about that as a game?
I was worried, and the first 10, 15 minutes warranted that. Liverpool having a lot of freedom. Obviously, then they got their goal. Then they got their other goal, which thankfully was offside. But after that, we started to see a little bit more cohesion with the team, and we were building chances. But I must say that even in that first 10 or 15 minutes, there were plans there to get the ball forward to all our more dangerous players like your Jacksons and your Sterlings and whatever. And eventually, we reaped the rewards because we got a quick double turn, but obviously Chilwell's goal was offside. But what was good is that you were seeing what was like. It was exciting, it was fun, and it was idealistic, and they weren't backing down. Even when after the first goal, their heads didn't. If that was last year, that result would have stood 1-0, and we would not have come back.
That's a fair point.
Not have bothered, not a thing, heads down. So it's good to the fact that we got players that want to try and get the ball in the back of the net, and that's why it's so good to get rid of all the ego from the team and the players that were there happy to be there and not to contribute. In the end, a draw I feel was a fair result. I was happy with it. I would take if you're saying you're fresh new team and you're going to play against Liverpool and newly slightly improved Liverpool with a massively attacking lineup and the opportunity, and you could come out with a score draw. I'm taking that all day. So I was very happy with what I would say. And I was thinking of this on my way here. That was probably our best performance. This performance on our first day was better than any performance we had last year.
Wow.
And I genuinely can't pick.
That's high praise.
I can't genuinely because the bar was so low from last year. Even in the games, some of the games that you see, like for example, the Tottenham game where Cucurella got his hair pulled and they scored against Spurs, that was one of our better games.
That game was outrageous. Though.
And then there was a game against Dortmund, probably one of Potter's better games. I can't genuinely, even games where we beat, like say, Bournemouth 3-1 towards the end and confirmed our survival, I genuinely can't pick for many more. Because yes, we scored the goals, but what about performance? Where at least with here, there was a performance. And towards the end of the game, we kind of marshaled it really, really well. We nullified any threat that they kind of had. Obviously, then there's that. But, you ride your luck sometimes. That won't happen again next time. But in general, I was happy with the performance. And the result, I want to say it's a fair one.
We'll talk about the hand of God part 2 a little bit. But I want to just ask for you, because obviously there's a lot of talk and praise about Nicholas Jackson, who we referred to as Michael Jackson a few podcasts back. But hey, he looks the part. When Craig describes him as like a Drogba light, I don't think that's a bad comparison. I think that he looked quite impressive. For you, what's the thing that's most encouraging seeing him lead the line compared to, and I'm going to name them, Lukaku, compared to Broja, who you've seen sparingly, compared to other players you've had up front over the years? What's the difference of Nicholas Jackson that makes you feel like, okay, we got something here?
The confidence is there. He's a much more reassured and confident guy in front of goal, and he's always looking for it. Like that's his pure position, and I don't think he gets too upset whenever he works well with the players that he has. So he worked well with, as much as he frustrated us with Sterling, getting the ball in there to him, and obviously on the other side as well, with likes of Chilwell feeding him in. He works well with. He sounds slotted in well with our more forward-thinking and attacking players, but more to the point is that he's not afraid to run and take the defenses on, which was what he was doing in the game. He was running with confidence and with assurance, and it's just a couple of times his finish just let him down just a little bit. But that's what Drogba was like when he first came. His finishing was not there for the first few games, but that's something that he can improve on. This is his first league game. We're asking a lot of him against Liverpool, against physical centre backs, so the likes of Van Dijk and what's the one called? Kanate. A lot to ask on your first game. Sure. And he takes them on. He's physical, he's powerful, he's got an eye for goal, he doesn't mind having a good run. His run reminds me a little bit of Drogba. That kind of like not very fast, but that strong, determined run, which gave defenses like all kinds of problems because you just don't know what he's going to be able to do. So I like what I see with him. I have so much faith in him going forward because of those attributes, and he wants to work hard. He wants to work. I mean, Broja would work hard, but he's inexperienced. And Lukaku's got experience, didn't want to work hard. And Kai Havertz is not a striker. So already on that front, we've got a big, massive advantage. He will start scoring soon. He will be scoring. or setting up goals as well.
Yeah, he had a couple of half chances in the game, but I was really impressed with his movement. He had an amazing run near the end, which he's played the ball into Mudryk, who people have criticised Mudryk for trying to go around the keeper, but to be honest, that not being a shot from Mudryk was all down to Alisson getting off his line so quickly and cutting the angle. I mean, Mudryk would have to have preempted Alisson running out and had the chip in mind to get the ball past him.
And that's what Alisson did have a decent game.
Yeah, he had a really good game.
He did a good game. So plus we should have started Mudryk anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the 11 you started. I didn't mind the tactic. I thought it was a smart play. Obviously, you lost Reece to injury in the game, which was a bit disappointing. And, Diassi got his debut goal. We completely forgot him. Well, not forgot him, but we completely disregarded him in terms of like the squad prediction of the 11. So, he looks like he's taking Chalobah's spot in the squad now, and maybe Chalobah might get moved on.
He does want to go.
See.
He did make a request that he did want to go because I don't think he's guaranteed all the time. It's a shame because I do like him a lot. So, but
you've got something. I mean, obviously you're missing. There's an Nkunku-shaped hole in your squad, but the way how you've kind of picked around it was quite good. I think the biggest issue with that match from both teams is that you had a massive, gaping, glaring issue in holding midfield. Liverpool starting with McAllister, that was just ridiculous as a single pivot. It's not what he is all about. And obviously, I don't know if that was Klopp being pointed. I don't know if that's just all he had, but that didn't work. And then obviously for you guys, you had Enzo in there, Gallagher alongside him, and he struggled a little bit.
But
you've now got Caicedo. You've also almost got Lavia. So you've really kind of made amends in terms of like fixing that problem area. But I guess for you now with Caicedo confirmed, Lavia likely to be confirmed, in the coming hours/days. Does that change your expectation for Chelsea? And does that now put greater pressure on Pochettino to actually get you in the top 4 this season?
The expectation for, I think, a lot of fans has varied for the most part. I don't think anyone's expecting a title run. And even with the likes of Caicedo and Lavia, I still don't expect it. I think our main priority is banking in the league. I mean, I said third. I think it's third or fourth. It's going to be 4 this season. I think Man City and Arsenal are going to monopolise that top 2. Where they finish, it's up to them. That third or fourth spot is going to be the 1, although their talks of moving it to 5, which I think loses some of its prestige a little bit. So let's just say to a 4.
Okay.
But a firm one. I wanted a firm where it's like, we're either 10 points either side. So it's 10 points from second, 10 points from fourth. Yeah. Like it's a firm sort of thing. It also, in a way, bolsters our squad because I think we're due a good cup run. We haven't won the FA Cup for a while. We haven't won the League Cup for a while.
That's true.
And if there's one thing I think there's going to be, and this is when City were on their ascendancy nearly more than 10 years ago, that's how they started. They started their ascendancy by winning the FA Cup the year after the Premier League. Not saying that's guaranteed going to be for us, but with the improvements in the squad, with the players that he kind of wants and the club wants, with players that actually want to play and do good, a good run in the cup, plus it solidifies European competition with both those cups, at least one or the other, is a good statement to have. Because that's one thing he didn't do last time he was in the Premier League, was win a trophy with Southampton or Spurs. And if he's able to do that and prove all the doubters wrong about himself, without necessarily have the backing of someone like PSG and to come back to do it here, which he really wants to do, I think that might have people sit up and look at him a little bit different. It worked for a little bit for Ten Hag last year with their so-called title challenge, which is laughable, but it gave him something to talk about. It gave him silverware. That's sometimes all you need. We're not in Europe. Let's get back into it. So I'd see an improved position in the top 4 and 1 or 2 trophies. I would say the expectation for us. We've got the squad to do it, got the capability, so why not?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good aim. I mean, I don't know. I think with the amount of money you've spent, I think you need to be looking at that top 3. And I think going further, I think as much as it's a tall ask, I think for the amount of money that's been spent by Chelsea, I think realistically, for the money and the outlay, you've got to be looking at what can we do, considering there's no Europe this season. Like, how much of a challenge can we put up? And I'm using the word challenge very loosely, but how much can we be as close to 1 and 2 as possible?
It's not it's not impossible. It's not. Look,
when you're already playing catch up because you only got 1 point and Man City got 2 and Arsenal got 3, Man City got 3. So like you're playing catch up already, but That's the challenge.
The last time we weren't in Europe, we won the league.
Yeah.
We did win the league, and it took Liverpool a while for not being in Europe to go ahead and win the league a lot later. And then the surprise package in 2016 was Leicester, who were 1 minute during relegation, next minute win the Premier League. I'm not saying that's a very, I'm talking thing here, but you get what my point is.
Yeah.
You get the point where you have a focus where like we make this what priority what is. It's a priority getting in the cups. It's a priority ascending ourselves in the table and fighting as hard as we can in the top three, or not saying necessarily win, but do we challenge? What does he want?
That is a big thing. And I guess it's all going to come down to the ownership and what they really want and how much patience do they have in Pochettino. Do they see it as this season is, I don't want to say it's a gimme, but this season, and let's get back to Europe. Considering the amount of spending you've had, it does feel like they're preparing for a transfer ban. It's almost like you're just saying, well, we're going to do what we've got to do this year. We're not going to buy players for a couple of seasons anyway. I mean, if you were in Europe, you've already violated FFP. So
Yeah.
But maybe they're just thinking, well, we'll just do what we can, and then we'll just ride it out this season. And if the Premier League decides to punish us or UEFA does as well, then fine, we'll just deal with that next year. We'll take the transfer ban, but we'll have all our key pieces in place.
We've done it once, we can do it again.
Yeah, and speaking of key pieces, you tried to get Mikel Olise, allegedly paying a £35 million release clause. Fabrizio Romano was quick on those Twitter streets, or X, as it's now referred to, streets, to let us all know that deal was pretty much done. He, just needs to work out the finer details, he said. And out of nowhere, Crystal Palace announced a new contract for Mikel Olise, bigger wages. Olise is the one that was happy to sign the deal. I just thought, wow. I know alongside that, they also said they were going to take you guys to court over the way you've approached this deal. So with all of that in mind, because Liverpool have also been here before with Virgil, when they tapped him up at Southampton, and they were very smart in that they backed away from the deal in January and got him in the summer. So there was at least that cooling off period when they eventually bought him. But looking at that saga, do you think this, alongside how you had your pursuit of Caicedo, which I thought was a bit kind of laughable, the amount you ended up paying for him, considering what you offered in January, what Liverpool had agreed with them to pay, and in fact, you ended up paying more than Liverpool's fee. Liverpool's was 105 and you ended 118. Yeah. How do you feel about the dealings that your ownership are doing, and do you think that this saga might start to make players look at Chelsea a bit differently as a destination?
I'm never going to be happy paying 100 or so million for a player especially if one's only been in the league for 4 years. I'm happy we have him. I'm happy for how much we paid for him. Not kind of necessarily. But what I don't want for us is that, because we were known for our savvy dealings in the past. We were known for, we were the ones that got Ashley Cole.
You tapped him up.
You got Gallas.
You tapped him up though.
You got Gallas.
So you have a precedent for doing this.
But we were savvy though. We were savvy.
So savvy about it.
Gallas versus Ashley Cole. And we did it with Mikel. Johnny Mikel, who's on the brink of United, but then no.
On the brink, he'd signed anyway. Yes. So
and with Kante as well. There was some question things about with Kante, because you were tapping him up as well, but we got him.
Yeah.
So, but those were like cunning in a way. And cunning is not like exactly.
You tap these players up. Like, let's just call a spade a spade.
Cunning.
Tapping up.
Cunning. Which
Tapping
is a bit
up.
like, how it's like a villainous way of devising a plan. It's cunning. Whenever you see a bad guy doing it, it's always cunning.
But you've been caught now.
But whereas this is
and this is the second time, because you also had Manuel Ugarte last summer. In January, Sporting Lisbon tried to get him, and they saw this coming and they stopped it.
It's the equivalent of, Matilda, when that guy ate the chocolate cake and he made it bait.
Yeah.
That's what it is. He's eating the cake and he said, yeah, I ate the cake, or I've tried to eat the cake. And I'm just kind of like, I know if a transfer ban is going to come, they're going to look at it how I used to look at Man United, where it's like, well, someone will pay that money, and I don't want it necessarily that need to be us, because that's what Man United were doing. Remember with Maguire and with Sanchez.
Keep going.
With all these other players,
Anthony,
Mount, Anthony, Sancho, all this kind of thing. In fact, we nearly paid more for Haaland than what Man City did. So that's what I don't want it to happen to us, where it's like a cash grab or a cash cow.
But also the Haaland deal, there's a lot of the money that's not publicly known, because obviously, his transfer fee was quite reasonable and respectable, but there's also agent fees and his actual wage, which is a lot more expensive. So actually his deal was worth a lot more than what the actual final figure looked like.
Long story short, I don't want us to be that kind of laughing stock where they will pay and with Haaland, no, not Haaland, sorry, Bowley's track record of signing players like he's playing Football Manager, it can be a bit of a worry. So far, it's done good. So far, the players we have signed so far mean something, and we've meant them to be there. But sometimes, especially in January, signing just anyone that's raised a pulse, it's giving off that kind of vibe sometimes when it's just like they'll just sign anyone for any fee.
But do you look at this Elise situation? Because obviously, I was a bit taken aback that you were even trying to buy him, because you have Madikele, who plays in the same position. Obviously, he's injured right now. But then you have Sterling, who also plays right side. I didn't quite understand the logic of going for Elise. Granted, an absolute baller of a player with a wonder of a left foot, and I think would immediately light up your team. But when you think about potential output, I think Madikele and him, they would be rivaling each other for the same position. So I don't see how that would have worked from a cohesion perspective.
It caught me by surprise, but I also suspect the fact that if you talk to most Chelsea fans about the player most likely they want to see go, it is Sterling. For the most part, we're not happy with him. But with me, I look at it like you don't lose what you had after over his years, after one season. He's got one more season to prove himself.
He looks good against
and he
Liverpool.
did, and he was good, but he just one thing a little bit too much. Where you want him to shoot, he doesn't. And sometimes it turns out to be a different game. It's one little pass too much, one dribble too much. It's always one thing too much. Which I know Pep would have said something to him about it. But you don't lose that talent overnight. And even if he is to leave Chelsea, he's going to go somewhere decent anyway. So to me, he's got another year to kind of brush that out of his system. After all, I have him as one of my generals in the team. I think he can be a general in the team because you already got Reece, Silva. It might change. Sterling, Rodri, and I can't remember who else.
Enzo.
And he already showed that in the game.
Yeah.
Fantastic. He can be one of them. In fact, he should be one of them. He's a Premier League veteran after all. So, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea. I think only Daniel Sturridge did that.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it all goes. I mean, I thought the whole transfer approach was just laughable. But, it's Todd Bowley. I'm not surprised by anything anymore. I just hope he learns in this saga and doesn't try that again, because that was just not a good way to go
Roman
about
wouldn't have
things.
done that. Also, Roman wouldn't have done it. He would have done it different.
Yeah, he would have tapped them up and got the deal done.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Bowley tapped up and failed to get the deal done because he didn't agree personal terms. Whereas with Roman, you always get personal terms locked in first, then you deal with the rest. That's how I got Ashley Cole, because you offered him, I think, 80 to 100,000, and we were only offering him. We had a verbal agreement of 60,000, changed it to 55,000 a week, and he was very much aghast at that change. Bad management from Arsenal in the past. But speaking of Arsenal, start off the season with a nervy, in the end, 2-1 win. Obviously disappointed and saddened at the injury to Urian Timber and what that might mean for the team, considering what he was giving us dynamics-wise. But I do want to start off on a bright note, and let's talk about the incredible play of our two wide players, Martinelli and Saka. The star boy who's becoming the star man, and the Brazilian who's showing us all that. He heard your comments online about does he have tech, and he's bringing that samba favela style football to the carpet. What did you think of the assist he gave for Nketiah for the first goal?
I've got to talk about that spin. He had them going, mate. Spin me right round. I'm spinning around. Kylie Minogue, whoever wants to see. And thinking of a song about spinning, he listened to that last night and go, I'm gonna bring us down here. Like you said, that favela samba lambada style, that was lovely, man. Lovely stuff. Fantastic, great assist, and to a player that's going to need it the most, with Jesus being out. And I remember you did say that he had a point to prove of being in that slot, because that's the one area where you're kind of lacking in, is that kind of like someone's going to give you X amount of goals to challenge for the season, especially against the likes of Haaland. And he took his chance really, really well. He got his goal. I think that was a score. He scored. No, he didn't score
the first goal.
He scored the first.
Just one goal, yeah.
Yeah, he scored the first goal. And I think that does something for your psyche, scoring the first goal, and he's in the season, looking to improve on where he came from last season. Obviously, he got more games to play. He got cups, and also not just Europe, but the Champions League for the first time in 7 years. So he's making a stake in the claim, whereas I can perform on all these fronts if you need me. So I think that's done a lot kind of for his confidence. And it was a good finish.
It's a great finish.
Yeah. Good goal.
Beating our former goalkeeper, Matt Turner, who we sold to Nottingham Forest earlier in the week. And actually, we were a bit sceptical as to whether we should have just delayed that transfer to after the match. But he had a good performance, Turner.
He did. Pretty good. I mean, but Saka's goal, Saka's goal. Lovely.
Saka's goal was just an absolute thing of beauty.
That's a staple now. That is literally like he's almost, you know what Bernardo Silva was doing to you, that's what he's now doing to them.
He's unlocked the Arjen Robben gene that we were saying. Like, can he just perfect that cut inside and then make things happen? And he did a similar type of strike for England.
Yeah.
The hat-trick game I was talking about at the end of the season, cutting in off the right flank, driving inside and just putting it top bins.
Yeah.
So he's really adding that to his reservoir, and to me, repertoire rather, not resume, and to me, he is ultimately now becoming the star man. Forget star boy. He's the star man now.
He's a man. He's the man. Very much the man at the moment, and that was a fantastic goal.
Yeah, and it's the kind of goal that I think for me will help with his confidence, but also help for me. I think the challenge now with him and Martinelli is, can they push towards that? You know, they both got double digits goals and assists last season. Can they now push towards that 18, 19, 20 Premier League goals now each mark with your double digit assists? That's the next level. Can they become those 18 to 20 goal a season wide players? And then when you get to that level, can you be that 25? And now you're sitting at the big boys table. So I'm excited to see how it goes for both of them. I did want to just say a bit more about Nketiah, and it's something that Arteta mentioned in his pre-match press conference actually before the weekend. And they asked him about Nketiah. No, I think it was post-match actually, and asked about Nketiah and why he started him. He said that Nketiah trained like an absolute beast in the week leading up to the opening game against Forrest. He was very upset about not getting the start in the Community Shield and decided to show the manager why unequivocally he needs to play and he has to pick him. And he proved it. And I think for me, a question to you with Nketiah, because there's a lot of comparison online about Nketiah, comparing it with Nicholas Jackson and seeing how well Jackson started and the furore around that. And I'm quite excited about Jackson and what he can do. But you've got Eddie Nketiah, you know, he was at Chelsea, but now part of the Arsenal, came through. It was in our academy briefly, but he's more of a Chelsea academy player. If you go by the years he was there. He's the record under 21 goal scorer for England. He's a player that is a penalty box striker who's good at getting goals, has a good instinct there. For you, what do you think is missing in his game for him to get the recognition, to not be seen as like the backup Arsenal striker or the second choice when Jesus injured, but the guy that genuinely could rival him for that starting position? What do you think is missing?
It's hard to argue because it's almost like he's very just sort of kind of complete. I'm surprised he's not the. If you want to truly bully defenses, you've got to try and find that way psychologically to put that fear in some of these defenses. Like, he's not the biggest person, but that doesn't say he doesn't. So strength is always going to be an issue, but psychologically sometimes something that he could do where he can just like twist him up, or just be that target guy when he's going forward that everyone seems to go to. Because finishing wise, he's actually pretty good. I just think he needs to have a bit more of a fear of, like, just to put a bit of a. It's a very hard thing to say because some people have it or you don't, and it's something that's very hard to learn. That kind of an intimidation thing. Some people have it, some people don't. Henry had it, Drogba had it, Rooney had it, Aguero had it, but not a lot of strikers that did do.
Harry Kane had it
big time. But a lot of strikers you look that may have done pretty decent, that maybe not hit that kind of hit that level, were still effective in a way. Like Anelka, he was intimidating, but he made it work. Then I'm on the fence of this one. Maybe like someone like a Berbatov, he made it work.
It's true.
Like, so with him, it's just kind of fine where it's like, focus on the things that you do really well and kind of enhance, and that intimidation could just come naturally. I think it's also he needs to play more games against more diverse defenses, threes, fours, potentially even fives. It could also be a point where it's like I would have him start pretty much every game possible, including, I say, Champions League games, because that's where he's going to need to learn it the most. Imagine going into the Champions League for the first time in 7 years, and you get through the group and he scores, 4 or 5 goals in the group stage. That's a great return to, like how you said, with like some Martinelli and Saka, to push them up to that level where they got like nearly 15 last year, and elevating level and level and level. He just needs to get to play against more diverse defenses, and I would be having that as the lead guy, and that intimidation will come. It won't necessarily come from him, but naturally their reputation will grow, and he gets more like respect in the way. Like you said, he's a fox in the box. He's a natural kind of like finisher. Now, we learned that at the Bridge a couple of years ago. He finished just beautifully. He finished, to my annoyance and to my iPad, which is now dead. Yeah, beautifully. So it almost feels like he's got a point to prove. Like Arteta said that he's got a point where he's like, I want to compete with Jesus for the top striker in Arsenal because he's capable of it.
That's right.
Very capable of it. I just think while he's fit and in some kind of way of form, start him as much as you can. Because even if, say, you don't play him up front, for reasons I don't know why, you could still play Havertz there, or even Martinelli there. And eventually when Jesus comes back, you could play him there. So he needs to start, not finish, but start every game from like here on in. So next game, start him. Champions League, start him. Cups.
It's really interesting when I think about Nketiah because it reminds me a lot of when we had Iwobi at Arsenal. And one of the things when the players were coming through the academy at the time, Chuba Akpong, who's moved on to Ajax, great deal for him, really happy,
Very
£10 million
deal,
deal, number 10 now at Ajax. It's an amazing platform and then hopefully he'll win trophies there and maybe move on to another big 14, big 16. But I remember in the time in the academy, I always preferred Akpom over Iwobi. I just thought he looked better. Even watching them live, I just thought he just looked a better player. But Iwobi had more of the elements needed to make it into the Arsenal first team back then. And I think the same, once he got into the Arsenal first team, it was his finishing which never kicked on with Iwobi. He just never seemed to shoot the ball with power. And it was a criticism people used to always level at him online and give him feedback. And I remember one day he put a Snapchat post saying, "Oh, I know how to rasp the ball now, don't worry." And he only did it once. So shooting was always an issue. Passing was never a problem. And at Everton, his issue is not his passing, it's still his shooting. And with Nketiah, I think he's good at scoring goals, but the distance for his goals are very much limited to around that penalty box spot. I need long range shots. If he can unlock, because he's unlocked the spinning gene, the post and spinner player. His off the ball work and on the ball work in build up is really good. He made a great run as well in a preseason match in Emirates Cup where he got the ball, spun a defender and just dribbled for ages. And I was like, okay, I like that. What we need now is distance shooting, because if you can add that outside the box shooting, which is something which Lacazette had really well. He was a great finisher or capable of scoring great goals, just not volume. Whereas Aubameyang had volume, but then he became very inconsistent. With Nketiah, if he can add the long-range shooting or power shots or power finishing to his game, then I'm like, okay, now you're good in the box. You're also now dangerous outside the box. You can dribble as a striker. You can hold the ball up and you can spin defenders. Now you've got the 5 elements I think that make a world-class striker, because Haaland has everything.
He's got it all.
And movement, obviously, number 6. So if he can add that to his game, I think then the conversation around him might change. Because right now with Balogun, what Balogun, one of Arsenal's other young players, has over Nketiah for me is the movement.
Yeah.
And it's where he starts. He's always on the shoulder and he's always looking to explode into space and he's finishing. So he's got the shot power and he's got the movement, which is why a lot of fans prefer him to Nketiah. But for me, Nketiah is a more polished player. And I think between the two right now, Nketiah's ahead because he just has more.
Yeah.
But he's not rated the same because he's not the shiny new thing. So I hope
if he starts cracking in some 20-yarders, like if he just puts his laces through, like from 20 yard, just to have a crack. Hey, look, if Sam Kerr can do it, you can do it.
That's right. In fact, for me, Arsenal's next game, which is away at Crystal Palace on Monday, if Nketiah can bend one in outside the box, top bins, now we're talking. Drop it over Sam Johnston's head, now we're talking.
I can't read it to Man U like it was nothing.
Just light work. Something like that, I think would make a big difference. You mentioned Sam Kerr, and we'll kind of head towards that and then the weekend preview. But like, the Lionesses are in the final. It's just they just know how to win. There was talk that the current England women's manager might be lined up as a potential successor to Gareth Southgate down the line. Obviously, Southgate has not won us anything yet. He's had enough opportunities and he hasn't quite done it. I don't know if he's the guy to take us over the line. I don't think he is, but he's got one more tournament. But yeah, the Lionesses are there.
Are there?
Amazing.
Absolutely. And shout out, we didn't do this last time. Shout out to Becky Spencer, Jamaica. Reggae Girls, round of 16. I think you only conceded one goal in the whole tournament. So you know what? Credit to you. And again, on the line, I was watching I've pretty much keeping up with all the England games, and they've gotten better as the time go along. Their best game was, I know they had the China game where they put 6 past, but I think the Australian one, because the stakes were higher and they had to be on their their A game. Sam Kerr starts for the first time, and
one
for a
goal.
reason.
Jeez.
For a reason. I mean, for those who don't know, you don't beat Mary Earps very easily. You got to do something mad. And there's 2 mad goals that have beat her. That was the one from Colombia, very, very Ronaldinho-esque, very Ronaldinho-esque. And this one here, Sam Kerr just run, pop,
Rifle.
rifle.
It's like a Rooney-esque goal.
It is
power.
just power and just no fear. Like squat down, quick, and she's quick. She's quick as well, and just popped it off. But yeah, you know what I like about the times when they go behind. And this goes back to the tournament last year in the Euros. When they go down, they don't panic. They don't falter. They don't like think that it's the end of the world. They'll come back stronger. Hemp, just like tenacious. And you got Golden Girl Russo coming up with that staple from the sides. And I got to shout about Toon's goal. Do you see Ella Toon, her goal?
No, I haven't seen it yet. No.
It's the finish, because it was in the box. I think she got part. I think Hemp made the assist, but she just finished it first time, no hesitation. Right, like it's in the box, but it's like it's going straight and like a little smallest color to the right hand side of the goal. And not a lot of players would think to just have a crack, but she did. Crack, just arrow straight. Beautiful goal. Great game. Great game, man. You know what? Sunday is going to be one to watch. And I think they can be... We've taken them once. We could take them again. But I think it's going to be a very different Spain that turns up against us on Sunday.
Exciting. I mean, I'm going to be watching quite a lot of women's football this year. I'm going to be at the Emirates for all of Arsenal's women's home games in the league this year. Yeah. So all the ones at the Emirates Stadium I'm going to be there for. Can't wait. Excited. I'm going to try and get down to Meadow Park as well and see some of those games. And if I can catch an away game, I'll be there.
Even better.
But let's talk about the upcoming fixtures. So starting off on Friday, Nottingham Forest at home against Sheffield United. Friday night kickoff to start the weekend's festivities.
You know what? They were very good against you.
They were.
They were good. Very unlucky.
Sheffield were also quite good as well.
They were good in a very dreadful game.
Yeah.
This has to be said. I'm going to call a draw this one. I'm going to call a draw.
I'm going for a Forest win. I just think Brendan Johnson will have another week worth of training under his belt. Gibbs White they'll shine at home. They'll shine at home. I think they'll pull it off. Then Saturday kicks off with Fulham against Brentford.
2 teams
at Craven Cottage.
2 teams that I know literally. I tell you what, actually, you know what? No, because they both won on the weekend.
And with Fulham, it's a bit. I did the celebration, but we don't know if Mitro is going to be there because there's been obviously Saudi Arabian clubs are looking at him and trying to bring him in.
They're a bit lucky against Everton, really. They're a bit lucky. I'm going for a Brentford win.
Brentford win. I think that could be a draw, but I think Brentford might have a bit. Yeah, I'll go for a draw. Liverpool, Bournemouth at Anfield.
Liverpool.
Same. Wolves, Brighton at Molineux.
Brighton.
I'm going to go for Wolves. They gave Man United a lot of stress.
They were good. You know what? That's true.
And Matthias Cunha, I mean, Pedro Neto looks like he's back, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Matthias Cunha looks like a world beater up front. I think they might pull it off.
They should have won that
I mean,
game.
Brighton are Brighton, and I'm literally kind of dismissing Brighton a little bit, but I think Wolves might do it. So that's that.
Should have won on Monday, by the way.
Yeah, well. VAR. Man United.
Women's World Cup can get it right. Why can't you?
I don't know. Man United are away at Spurs. So I wonder if the refereeing union will hold them out again, because I don't know how Andre Onana's foul is not a
On
penalty.
any other day, yeah.
I don't get it. And for me, I don't understand why the referee wasn't even asked to review it.
I know that's the worst. That's the worst thing, because if he does, it's like I was watching everything like,
How's he missed it?
Lessons, not learning lessons. Is it Tottenham Stadium?
At Tottenham Stadium, yeah.
I'm going for a draw for that one.
Draw. I think Spurs are they were a bit weird in their first opening game. I'll go for an away win. I think Man United are going to keep picking up points earlier on in the season and keep this title talk alive before they eventually crash and burn. Then the last game on the night on Saturday, Man City versus Newcastle. Big game at the Etihad.
Slim Man City win. Like a 1-0 or a 2-1.
I think both Haaland and Ishak are going to score in that game. I'm going for a 4-1 Man City win. And then Sunday kicks off with Everton, Aston Villa at Villa Park.
Everton were unlucky not to win on Saturday. And Villa got caught with their pants down.
Yeah, and then they've now got two big injuries in Buendia and also Tyron Mings as well.
I'm going to go for a very slight Everton win.
I'm also going to go for an Everton win. I think it's second season, and we've been through it. We know what that means. Sorry, Villa fans. It's not going to be all good going forward. You guys have Chelsea. You have West Ham away, so at the London Stadium.
A 7 out of 10 comfortable win. Like a 2-0.
You're going to beat them 2-0 at home.
I think we're going to win.
I think it'll be a draw. A score draw, maybe a 2-2. I think West Ham, obviously there's lots of talk around Nketiah, whether he'll get sold. I think they're just going to come strong, and they know that this season means a lot.
They're not getting Maguire now.
Not getting Maguire now, and they've got James Ward-Prowse, good signing. So I think he'll get a goal in his debut, London Stadium.
It'll be a free kick.
And then I think 2-2 draw in that game. And then Monday night ends with Arsenal versus Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park.
Fairly comfortable Arsenal win.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Arsenal win. It'll be a close game. Palace will they might threaten. It might be a similar 2-1 scoreline like the previous game, probably 3-1, but I think Arsenal will get the points there as well. And that's it for this week's podcast. So we'll see how our predictions go. You can join our Fantasy Football League. The link is in the bio description if you're listening on audio. If you're watching on video, you can just check the description to see that. And let us know what you think about the opening fixtures. Are you surprised Man United might reintegrate Mason Greenwood? We've not talked about it much, but we're going to wait and see if that does happen. And we're going to discuss all of that and more if it does happen in next week's podcast. But that's us signing out for now. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy the games coming up.
Peace.